guard dog on his way.
I am not deaf.
Friendly glide bomber incoming. Recon plane cleared for mission. Recon planes all set. Go get them. Losing objective Charlie. Guard dog good to
You
go.
can take 2 out at once.
Almost
Hiding
loaded
from
and
my
ready.
aim.
Triple kill.
Today I'm going back playing Call of Duty Vanguard that was released in November 2021. I haven't played a lot of Call of Duty recent years, and Vanguard was a COD game that I didn't play a lot either when looking at my stats, but even so I was curious to see how it felt coming back to the game almost 4 years later after release. But before I go into Vanguard specifically, I do need to talk about what I believe had an effect or impact, if you will, on me when going back into Vanguard in 2025, after we've had 4 other COD games being released after Vanguard. The last Call of Duty game that I spent quite a few hours playing was Cold War, a Treyarch game that I enjoyed and had fun playing, even though there was flaws of course when it comes to Cold War as well. But it still felt like a Treyarch game per se, and I've usually enjoyed their games over time. But Sledgehammer Games hasn't impressed me in the same way, for example also when looking back into Call of Duty World War II as well, that was released in 2017 by the same studio. This was a time when Treyarch and also Infinity Ward, for example, when releasing Modern Warfare 2019, was still somewhat stronger and innovative compared to recent years, in my belief, and was therefore ahead, kind of Sledgehammer Games in my book when it comes to getting the most out of their games. But things can change, and that's what has partly happened recent years. Because devs and also people in charge when it comes to deciding the direction of the future COD games comes and go. And I believe that some of us can definitely tell when it, for example, comes to Black Ops 6, which feels a bit less of a Treyarch game per definition compared to older titles by the same studio. The same goes as well for Infinity Ward that released Modern Warfare 2 in 2022, but most people agree that Sledgehammer Games was able to refine their game and ideas, if you will, when releasing Modern Warfare 3 in 2023. Basically being more or less the game from the year before, or a DLC as people have said, but improvements in the game that was appreciated by many in the community. Also adding some of the OG maps from before into the game. I know though that some would disagree or argue, since they did like the gunplay more in Modern Warfare 2 compared to Modern Warfare 3, just to mention one thing, but that's another story. With that said, I do have to say that my experiences getting back into Vanguard now in 2025 was a bit different from how I felt about the game as a whole back in 2021. I strongly believe that it has to do with 2 things. One, the last couple of games in the COD franchise hasn't been that great in my opinion, and second, it was nice to come back to a COD game that feels a bit more like the older COD games, and I'm referring to the identity of the COD franchise, foremost being a military looking shooter. Very often somewhat grounded in historical events such as the World War II or the Cold War era as an example, although there's a lot of fiction added of course. But man, what a relief to not see all these like Ninja Turtle skins or celebrity skins jumping around the maps. Don't get me wrong, it can be fun with these kind of skins and bundles when it comes to customization, but only to a certain amount or degree, since the game otherwise looks and feels as if it's trying to be something else. Like a Fortnite clone, if you will. Yes, Epic Games created a successful formula that a lot of other publishers and developers have been trying to copy in order to achieve the same kind of success. The difference though, which has been stated by other YouTubers making the same comparison, is that Fortnite was a cartoonish looking game already from the start, which makes the colorful characters and skins blend much better into the game compared to what we've seen recent years in Call of Duty. With that said, it was nice to mainly see actual soldiers foremost when playing Vanguard once more. It kind of resonates better and more with the COD brand and the identity of the game or the franchise as a whole. I had a lot of good matches and moments when playing Vanguard once more. As a matter of fact, I haven't enjoyed going back to COD game this much in a long time. I believe that says quite a lot, since Vanguard, as described, never became or was my favorite and also got a lot of negative reviews, well, especially when it comes to the single player experience, which I'm not getting into here, focusing mainly this time around on the multiplayer. I also believe the map design matters, since the Vanguard maps has more variety when it comes to the map sizes compared to, for example, Black Ops 6. that it's mostly played on smaller maps, well, medium-sized at the most. In Vanguard, you also have the combat pacing system, where you can choose what kind of intensity you want when getting into the matchmaking. The combat pacing options changes lobby size and also change how each mode flows from map to map. This was a pretty interesting take, since I went a bit back and forth between tactical and blitz, which gave a bit of variety. Not too bad, although the servers and matches aren't always full since there's less players playing Vanguard compared to a couple of years ago. But even so, it felt a bit fresh and fun coming back to that kind of pacing system. What about the matches or lobbies? Did I have to wait a long time to get into a game? Well, I had ticked about 50% of the different game modes available in Vanguard, playing the game on PC and living in the EU. I did not have to wait a long time before being able to join a game. When looking at the ping when it comes to some of the players though in the lobby, it definitely seems as if there sometimes were some guys playing on an unhealthy high ping. But at least the matches most of the time got filled up with players. In order to get a hint how many players that are still playing Vanguard in 2025, we're gonna first take a look into the Steam charts. Remember though that it only includes PC players and not console players or PC players playing the game through Battle.net instead of Steam. Vanguard was also released later on Steam according to Steam, since it says March 2023 on the Vanguard Steam page and not 2021. Anyhow, a quick glimpse on the Steam charts show us that there aren't many guys playing Vanguard at all in 2025 through Steam, which I kind of expected. As you can see, there's only been around 119 daily players on average, with a peak of 282 players. But if we then go into active player IO, there's of course quite a difference, which is expected, since we now can see the total amount of players, both when it comes to people playing the game on PC as mentioned, on Steam and on the Battle.net launcher, but also the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 players, and Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S players as well. If these stats are somewhat right or accurate, there's been around plus 119k daily players on average and around plus 442k monthly players on average. That sounds more like it, even though we should take these kind of numbers with a grain of salt. But these numbers, alongside with my own recent experiences when it comes to getting into matches in Vanguard, shows at least me that it's definitely possible to play the game in 2025 if you're up for it when it comes to the multiplayer experience. So even though I haven't dived into the actual guns, gunplay or perks in the game and whatnot, I still had a good time coming back to the Vanguard multiplayer experience, especially in context of not being someone that has played a lot of COD recent years, and also someone that is hesitant when it comes to the recent direction and development when it comes to the new COD games as mentioned. Now, is it worth buying Vanguard in 2025 even, only for the multiplayer experience? I guess it depends on where you live in the world when it comes to active service finding those games, your budget of course, and also the fact that, well, COD games aren't very often on a hot sale, but maybe you're better off in the long run to put your money, let's say, into Modern Warfare 3 instead, if buying a slightly older COD game. Especially also if you want to experience both the single player and multiplayer, and also have an even bigger player base to lean upon, since Modern Warfare 3 is still holding numbers pretty well, and is a game that even some core COD players has recently decided to go back to, since not everyone appreciates the Black Ops 6 design with Omni movement and the map layout as an example. So, I would love to hear from you as well what kind of thoughts you have about Vanguard. As said, to wrap things up, I had a good time coming back to the game. I was a bit surprised since I didn't really like it that much in 2021. But hey, I changed, but also the games afterwards has kind of proven for me that it's sometimes good to look back a bit and get a bit of a retro perspective, if you will. With that said, thanks for watching, take care my friends, and have a really good day, and I'll talk to you soon again in an upcoming video. Later.
No point in wasting ammo. Two at a time. My scope sees